Howdy, Yaksimash, and good morning. How are you doing? Good. A big check welcome to all the RED-C Catholic Radio listeners. I am Darren Sinkule. I'm coming to you live from Granny's Kitchen again, here at Blessings Christian Gifts in West. And I have a good group of guests here with us today. Today is it's November the 29th, 2023. And it's a beautiful day outside. I'm looking out the window here at Granny's Kitchen, and you're listening to RED-C Catholic Radio, religious education for the domestic church. I want to welcome all of our listeners from the Brazos Valley KEDC 88.5 FM station, and from Central Texas KYAR 98.3 FM, and in Palestine KNIF 107.9, and all of you listening online at redcradio.org or on the RED-C Radio app. Welcome, everybody. Back in the studio, we have Dennis Maka at the controls, and here in the kitchen with us and behind the scenes is Deacon Robin and Kayla Bruner. We have three wonderful guests with us today. And let me just introduce them real quick. We have Matt Hykel and Cheryl Hoelscher and Bobby Jetelina, and they are all with the St. Vincent de Paul Society. Matt and Cheryl are from the West Society, as well as Bobby is from the Waco Conference. So, Conference Society, is there a difference?
Well, a little bit.
Yeah. We'll get into all of that. So, I brought in these guests today because they do some awesome works, and we listened to the gospel reading this past Sunday, and where Jesus, from Matthew, Jesus was talking about the corporal and spiritual works of mercy, mainly the corporal works of mercy. And what providential timing, actually, the way that this worked out to have y'all as guests today. So I guess I'll start. Before we get into anything, who is St. Vincent de Paul? I don't know who wants to tackle that one. Matt?
I'll go ahead and do that. St. Vincent de Paul was born on April 24, 1581 in southwest France. And at the age of 15, he was found to be intellectual. And so they sent him to school to study theology with the Franciscans. Mm-hmm. And he became ordained in 1600. And then he went to the University of Toulouse, and he graduated there in 1604. Huh. And after that, in 1605, he was, during a sea voyage, he was seized by Turkish pirates and sold into slavery. And not a lot of people know that. And he was in captivity for 2 years. And he converted the owner to Christianity.
Really?
So he escaped along with, the owner did, along with St. Vincent de Paul. And St. Vincent de Paul went back to Rome for a year to study some more. Huh. And after that, he was assigned to a wealthy aristocratic family in Paris, France, to tutor and to be a spiritual advisor for this family. Well, while he was there, he heard the confession of a poor, dying peasant, and that changed his heart. That's when he started ministering to the poor and setting up institutions to help the poor. One of the first ones he set up, first he started the Congregation of the Mission, which is now known as Vincentian Priests. He started them in order to go to rural areas and to poor people and to help them out. And also to form new priests. He brought in a lot of new priests because at that time there was a shortage. And so he did that. And then he started what's called the Congregation of the Mission in 1625, which was a loose association of lay women who were fairly rich. And so he had them, feed, help, so he pointed to here, we need, people to feed in poor parts of France, in poor parts of Paris, and also to minister their sick. And then he started, along with St. Louis de Marillac, he co-founded the Daughters of Charity.
So the same Daughters of Charity that run the hospitals?
Yes,
here
same one that's still here.
Wow.
Yes, it's the same group. And this is 200 years before the start of the St. Vincent de Paul Society.
Wow.
And
I did not know that.
He's a patron saint of charitable organizations and the poor.
That is cool. I learned something every day. I always wondered about the Sisters of Charity, Daughters of Charity. And
Yes.
I experienced them when I was in the hospital myself.
Oh, okay. And yes, that's part of the same group.
Wow.
They've been around a long time.
Yeah. Okay. And so, of course, he's St. Vincent de Paul. When did he become a saint?
He became a saint. He was canonized in 1737 by Pope Clement XII.
Pope Clement XII. Huh.
So, and right now, his incorrupt heart is on display at the can be found at the convent of the Sisters of Charity in Paris.
Did you say incorrupt heart?
Incorrupt heart.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
I just read that yesterday, so that's how I know.
That's new.
I think that surprised me too.
That is awesome. And so I guess people make pilgrimages there to Paris to see and see his incorrupt heart. And is it on display? I guess
I don't know if it is or not. I didn't see if it was on display or not. It's at the convent there.
Wow.
Can I also say that what miracles are attributed to his sainthood? A nun was cured of ulcers, and a laywoman was healed of paralysis.
Yeah.
Wow.
And his feast day is September the 27th.
Right.
Yes. September 27th.
Right.
That happened to be the day that I contacted y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
This is all providential.
See, he's communicating.
Yes, for sure. So you'd mentioned the Vincentian. I know. I hear your spot on the radio. You and fellow Vincentians, but you said they were priests. So are there there's lay Vincentians or
right? The Society of the lay part was started in I think 1833 by 23 by Blessed Frederick Ozanam.
Right.
Okay.
He started he was 20 years old when he started it. And Bobby.
Yeah, I could talk to this. Frederick Ozanam was, I won't go into his full background, but he was a student, and he was somewhat lost in his faith, and because of and I'm sorry that I don't have the name of the person who helped guide him and lead him on this path. But at the age of 20, he and 6 other students created the Society of St. Vincent. Well, actually, they originally, the society was called the Conference of Charity, and later became the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. But the group that met saw the need in France or in Paris for those who were ill, sick, who were poor, who had need of food, clothing, and so the main objective was to help impoverished people living in the slums of Paris. And a quote that's attributed to Frederick Ozanam: "We must do what is agreeable to God. Therefore, we must do what our Lord Jesus Christ did when preaching the gospel. Let us go to the poor." And he was beatified by Pope John Paul II in 1997. So we're still praying for his sainthood.
So he's blessed.
He's blessed. Correct. Blessed.
So first, I guess the thing that still strikes me, this timing of this past Sunday's gospel was, what can we do? If we clothe the naked, if we and feed the hungry, visit the sick, and in prison, when we participate like that and do those corporal works of mercy, Jesus said that we're doing them to him.
Correct. Yes.
How does that make you feel as a Vincentian? You know, I mean, does that bring you any consolation, or does it move your heart? Let me back up, I guess. What drew you, I don't know whichever one you want to start first, what drew you into the society? Is it because of the works of charity, or you have a soft heart? What do you think?
I'll start with that one. I think what I had heard of St. Vincent de Paul Society when I was young and living in Waco. Mm-hmm. That was one of the first in Texas, was at St. Mary's, which later dissolved. But for West, we weren't that familiar with the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. And during the explosion, they came to our rescue. And through that time, they brought in what's referred to as a house in a box, which they brought over, I think, 150 to the area, which consisted of mattresses, linens, chairs, things to set up a household. Mm-hmm. If you went and had to rent an apartment unfurnished, you had the stuff there for you. And going out, they met the needs of the people, whether it be giving them gift cards so they could run into Waco or run somewhere to go get clothing or, personal hygiene stuff. That need, once they were here in West, they realized and went to Father Ed and said, y'all have got an ongoing need. This wasn't a one-time thing that y'all need help. You've got plenty of people that are still living in poverty. And, at first I thought myself, there's not that many, I guess just unaware. But once we started going out and visiting and we got a group set up, they're called conferences, each individual conference. I think there's 42 or so in the Austin Council. And once we started going out and reaching out to the people, we found there's plenty of need. People living in housing that wasn't decent. People that couldn't pay their bills, that were skimping on groceries or even their medications just so they could pay their rent, So that was our purpose. And really, you learn so much from these people. It gives you a feeling of satisfaction, but it also, you learn so much. You feel so blessed by the people you meet. Because there are just all sorts of people that you come across, and you learn not to judge because everybody's got a different background and why they are in the situation they're in.
Right.
The saying, but for the grace of God goes, yourself. And that's so true because you can see that so often, especially in some of the single parents who are dealing with the issues they're dealing with.
Yeah. In some of my reading, in section 6 of the Catechism, that talks of the love for the poor, it really addresses this need that people have, and how. And Father said this in his homily Sunday. Do you love Jesus? If you love Jesus, you're going to do these things. If you're not doing these things, do you really love Jesus? Do you love your neighbor? And that struck me. Deacon and I were talking before the show, and one of the other things is in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 21, it says, whoever despises his neighbor is a sinner, but blessed is he who is generous to the poor. How blessed each of you are for donating your time, your treasure, your talents that you share with those that are in need. So I'm going to address these conferences, I guess, one at a time. How many members are in the West Conference?
Right now we have 13 active members.
13 active members. And how many are in the Waco Conference?
There are 33. 33. And that doesn't include, there are 33. But we do have a distinction of an associate member as opposed to a full member. Mm-hmm. And really one of the biggest differences is a full member has voting privilege.
Okay.
Whenever we consider our cases. And the requirement that they attend meetings, because the meetings are almost a core of who we are, because through the meetings, we learn and we discuss on how to help and who our neighbor is and just in which direction to go forward. And so, like I said, 33.
Okay.
One thing, Darren, that I was going to mention too is this. We're blessed by being in this, but this is really not just. It's not a club you just join.
No.
It is a ministry. It is a vocation. And that's the reason we differentiate between an active member and an associate member, because an associate member may not have the time to dedicate that part of their life to that right now. They maybe can't attend meetings and grow spiritually and build the bond between these members. Mm-hmm. So they'll be an associate member, and they're usually contributing in that financially and, when they can attend meetings. But to be an active member, it really is, it's a vocation. You go through a lot of training. You're going to attend these meetings. You're going to have the spiritual part is a big, big part of the ministry.
And for example, we have one associate member who, for reason, can't attend meetings. She speaks Spanish. So if we have somebody that get a case that where the family only speaks Spanish, she's more than willing to come on the case with us to help us out.
That's a ministry in itself.
Yeah.
There.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what are the things that the conference provides to those that are in need? Money is one thing, but there's bound to be other things.
Well, we never give money. We, for example, if somebody needs help with electric or rent, we don't give them the money to pay for it. We pay the company ourselves, the landlord or the electric company. We send them the check.
Okay. And so you visit with these folks. Is there someone that's assigned to get the case? Do the people contact you, or are they referred to y'all, or how does that work?
Most of the time, it's somebody will refer them to us, and they will call the St. Vincent de Paul number, and the person who answers the phone will do a case intake. Mm-hmm. And then it'll be assigned to 2 members. We always go in pairs. Mm-hmm. And then we'll do a home visit. And most people find that a lot more comfortable than having to sit in the office, especially if they have little kids running around. Yeah. They feel more comfortable at home. And we want them to feel comfortable. We're not a government agency, just taking data. We want them to feel comfortable and that we care about them.
Mm-hmm. So in that visit, you get to see. I'm guessing all of y'all have gone. You get to see what kind of environment that they live in.
Yes.
And I'm sure it tugs at your heartstrings to.
Yes, and it's kind of, it's very common actually that you'll walk into a home. They're nervous at first, a lot of times in tears, and you'll sit down with them and start looking around and, hey, is that your grandkids up there? Hey, is this, you start a conversation, get to know them. They're our neighbors is how we refer to them, not a client. They're our neighbors. Cool. And so once we get in there and we start visiting with them, we start noticing things that they may have called because they just said they needed groceries, for instance, that they're out of groceries. And we'll commonly take a bag with us when we go. But you start looking around and you say, well, we noticed that the windowsills, everything's leaking. They're talking about their electric bill being sky high. And we'll say, well, is there something we could do to help with that? So we'll start noticing other things. And also noticing things that I remember one case a few years ago where we went in there and the lady had all these neat craft things she had done. She was very artistic. She had made all sorts of stuff, sewing and crocheting, all sorts of stuff. And so we mentioned to her, have you thought about selling those or, going to craft fairs or, talking to local vendors here? And she had said, no, I don't know if they're that good. So giving her that encouragement, just say, hey, you've got a talent that maybe could help you with some of this extra money to pay your bills. Mm-hmm. So being there in person means a lot. And we always, always, always go in 2s. You never go to home alone. You always go with 2 people.
So when you're there and you see someone in distress, do y'all have the ability to minister to them, to let them know that they're loved, that God?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That again is a very basic responsibility of ours, and we struggle, but we try to learn the best approach, and that's we pray before we enter the house. We pray with our neighbors. We pray when we leave the house for guidance.
Yeah.
And to see the face of Christ.
Right. Yeah. So I say every meeting, we talk about that, seeing the face of Jesus in everybody that we go visit.
That is key right there. Oh, I could tell you some side stories with that. There were, maybe I'll save it if we get close on time. So y'all see that environment. You deal with probably many cases. It has to take a toll on each of you individually. What about your support? How does that work? Do y'all have your conference meetings? Do y'all pray and discuss this and lean on each other, because it's got to tear at your heart?
Well, I know in our conference, the first 30 minutes is all spiritual. It's usually a reflection. We read the gospel of the upcoming Sunday, or if it's a feast day, we read that. And then there's a Vincentian meditation, and then kind of a discussion question, and we talk about that.
We've also started this Serving in Hope, which is materials that St. Vincent de Paul Society provides us. Right. They have just a plethora of different types of training materials. And that Serving in Hope makes you stop and realize, about judging people, about being more open to their needs, spotting things. And that's why a lot of times we'll get a male and female, or, sometimes it's a married couple that'll go. And because
notice different things,
you'll see something totally different than I might see. I might notice, the stove isn't working right when they're worried about, something totally different. Right. The things that we notice makes a big difference too, in how we can help them.
So when you serve them by paying their bills, it just so happens that this past Sunday, another providential thing in our bulletin was the breakout of what the conference does in West. And I notice here paying not only utility bills, but mortgage, rent,
right,
school supplies,
medical bills, lodging, temporary lodging. Maybe somebody got kicked out of their house. I'm guessing y'all seen something like that. Transportation. Somebody's car's broke down. They can't get to work to provide for their family.
Right.
Yes.
Funeral. I see funeral in here.
Yes.
I'm sure there are people that probably can't even afford to pay for the funeral service or buy a cemetery plot for their loved one.
Right.
Again, that falls right in with the corporal works of mercy.
It
And
does.
there's really no limit to, of what we will help with.
That's one of the rules.
Yeah.
There's a book called The Rule.
Find a way.
And one of them says, there's nothing foreign to what we can do. In other words, we're not a government agency that's going to ask about your income. We do try to ask those things to help them with their budget, but we're not going to base our choice of how to help them. Well, you make enough money, you shouldn't get this. We're not there to judge them in that way. We're there to assist.
Because we've had cases where both the man and wife had good jobs, but maybe he got in a car wreck and she got sick and couldn't work. Neither one could work for a month and need help with the rent for that month. And help them for a month, and they're on their way again.
So with it's a sacrifice of your time and your talents and treasures. What kind of message do you have for the lay people that are not part of the conference? I know I hear your advertisement on the radio where we're looking for new members, but it's not just to be a member, but it's also the support.
Right. And I feel a lot of times more blessed than the people they help me more than I help them.
Yeah.
As far as, being a blessing, because some of the people you find so much faith, they just know everything's going to be okay, even though they may have nothing.
Yeah. With Christmas around the corner and this time of Advent, it's a time of reflection and time to maybe make a little bit of sacrifice as well. What can the lay people do? How can they help your conferences?
Especially with my conference in Waco, as we are the only conference. On the perimeters, you have West, you have McGregor, St. Eugene's has a conference, Christ the King in Belton has a conference, and primarily, we try to help within our parish boundaries, but we found that where we're located, which is West Waco, there is not as great of a need. Not that there isn't a need, because as Cheryl said, sometimes you don't realize, they're living on the edge. And so, but the biggest challenge is to find those people. But in Waco itself, in every part of the city, we found, because you don't have to be Catholic, let me just stress that, to receive our help. And most times they aren't. But again, as Cheryl said, we're not a government agency, so we're not restricted by certain rules and regulations. But what I would say to someone listening, in terms of perhaps just the idea of getting involved, attend one of our meetings. We open. Now, there's a part of our meeting that is closed that we would invite them to recuse themselves, but to see how, as Matt said, our breakdown of the society is in the form of spirituality, friendship, and help me with the third, which is helping the poor. Oh my goodness! But in other words, like a pie graph, and there's a third, and we incorporate all of that. The fellowship is just as important, because it's through the contact that we have with each other that we learn each other's hearts, and they learn ours, and we can better help our neighbors. It sounds like a different way of having a party, but it is a party. And but then again, the spirituality. Okay, and I digress. I'm moving through this, but as I said, we invite people, and I'm sure Wes does the same. We invite even non-Catholics. We embrace anyone who has the desire to be open-minded, open-hearted, and see how they can help. So the process of becoming a Vincentian is one of a discernment. In other words, after you've come to a meeting, after you've gotten involved, we have people they're not in our society, but we do Meals on Wheels in West Waco. And we also receive bread from Panera off of 8th Street. Those are little mini ministries, okay, in which we help. And so others, well, these people who come in can help that way. They learn a little bit more. They work with the Vincentians. And then over a 3 to 6 month period of discernment, because like Cheryl said, it is a vocation. We do not take it lightly. And it's a life commitment. It's not a club. And so with that said, I might communicate what I found to answer the question, what makes a Vincentian? Vincentians dedicate themselves to those in need, share in spirituality, promote a life of prayer and reflection, and work together to bring the most aid and comfort they can to their neighbors. It is a community of action, transforming concern for those in need into concrete service and understanding. But I can't emphasize enough, we have a need, as Wes probably has a need of more involvement by all people. And at some point in this program, I'm sure we'll give our phone numbers, and we encourage people to reach out. Yes.
And also, monetary donations help out. That's how we fund everybody.
I want to cover, like, for the past year, the money that came from the West Parish, from the Church of the Assumption. We took in $64,000, a little over $64,000, and paid out to the needy through all various, different types of services needed, 62,327. And when I totaled up for the past, we've been doing this for, April of 2024 will be 10 years. So a little over 9.5 years I put into the download, and we've covered over $410,000 that our parish has donated, and we've been the conduit to get it out to the needy.
I was looking at this number, talking with Deacon, it just seems like that need of 62,000 and God's provided a little more than what you've needed.
It's amazing how he does that.
Isn't it?
We can spend 900 something. I remember one of the first years we went and bought hams, and I think hams and turkeys, if I remember right, for Christmas time. And we were, oh gosh, I hope we have enough and everything. I think we spent like $930 something at HEB. And within a day or so, we had a check for almost the exact same amount where somebody wanted to clear out their bank account, and giving a donation where they pay their taxes, almost exactly what we just spent. It's amazing how that works.
It's amazing how, every year we give gift cards for students who need school supplies, who, parents might not be able to afford them. And it seems like every time we give the cards out, a big check comes in.
Something to cover it.
Yeah.
Wow.
One thing I was going to mention, though, too, after what Bobby was talking about what a Vincentian is and what it means to me to be that, is you will find that your life changes drastically after you've been through the training and done this for a while. You look at it, you realize that everything, not just your life, your spiritual life with the Vincentians, but you notice, at the time up until a few years ago, I was still working full time. And you notice that your attitude towards your coworkers, your attitude towards your family, everything. You see somebody panhandling, your attitude when you look at them is going to be a whole lot different than what it was before, where you might have judged them and thought, why don't you get a job? When you see somebody panhandling, you'll think now about the compassion, what brought them to that place.
Yeah. That's Jesus changing your heart.
Yes,
and
definitely.
And changing and just little things that I notice myself doing is, I might be at HEB, with a grocery cart, and somebody with a few items might be behind me. I'll say, you go ahead and go ahead of me. Just little things like that, or saying hi to somebody that looks like they're a little down.
Yeah. It's easy for us to
walk away
and just, don't talk to me. And then there are people that abuse these systems, these organizations that give, but when we're giving with our heart, Jesus knows what we mean, what our heart is to actually love our neighbor.
You're right. There are some people that try to abuse it, but most people are pretty honest with us. And I would, like I tell our conference, I say, I'd rather err on the side of giving money than withholding something from somebody that really needed it.
We encourage them to be
honest.
able, self-sufficient, and, and of course the honesty too, but self-sufficient with this. But there are some cases, which I had mentioned to you before we went on air, about like a 40-year-old man that we helped to get a truck driving license. He wanted to get a CDL, and we helped him with that tuition, and he went through the program. He was a go-getter and went ahead and got his hazmat also. Got caught up on all the child support he owed, was able to move out from his family and live on his own again, and then started contributing to St. Vincent de Paul. But in other words, there are a lot of successful cases, and there's some that we just have to keep encouraging and pray about. But one thing too, I was going to mention real quick too, when he mentioned about parts of the meeting that people can't stay in for, that is because we keep everything very confidential.
Yeah.
And in a small town like West, we have to be very careful because everybody knows everybody. As we all know, we're all kin. And, so we don't mention names. We don't, if I see somebody in the grocery store that we've helped, I might nod, good morning or something as I would anybody, but we're not going to address them. Oh, how's it going? We're going to keep this very confidential.
Sure.
Yeah.
So are there any other stories that you want to keep them anonymous? I know, but is there just one that maybe, Bobby, you could share that somebody was impacted and you can tell?
Well, we had one of our first cases, and our conference was formed February 2nd, the 22nd of 22. So I can always remember that date. And therefore, we were an infant conference. And therefore, the money we had, we were cautious in in spending it because we were given this in trust by our parishioners to help others. But again, we want to be prudent. So we had a case come up of a lady who had some medical issue that put her into a diabetic coma. She had 3 small kids. She was divorced. The husband did help with the kids while she was in the coma. And they were struggling. The mother was struggling to be able, even though she didn't know it, but she had a house, and so there was monthly rent. Well, this situation became over a year. She was blessed that the landlord didn't incur, or she didn't incur penalties, but it accumulated to $8,000. And with the contribution from my conference, along with what we call a copay, and that's, if you will, imagine a family and somebody in the family is struggling. Everybody pulls together and helps that member, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we do that through our copay program. And so all the other conferences send out information, and they're asked if they're able to provide a pledge. Mm-hmm. With that, along with, and I have to include the council level, we were able to raise the total $8,000 within maybe 3 weeks. Wow. Again, there was no time restrictions because the landlord was flexible. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, too, we did make sure all was up and above board. Sometimes, but again, that's some money contributed to help those who are really in need. And so I just look at that as a blessing to know that such a large amount was able to be attained, and we helped someone who did need our help.
Mm-hmm. So before we're getting close to wrapping up here, how does someone get in touch with, let's start with the Waco conference. Is there a phone number to call, and when your meetings, if you want to share some
yes,
of that?
I will. We meet, St. Jerome's Catholic Church is our home, and we meet at the Mother Teresa Family and Youth Center on the grounds every second and fourth Thursday from 6:15 until 7:30. Actually, it's right after we have our daily Mass on Thursdays, which are at 5:30. So you can attend Mass, and following that, come to the meeting. I could give you our number, but our number is really reserved for when a neighbor is in need.
Okay.
If it's all right to give my own number, I don't mind. Bobby Jetelina, and my number is 254-723-0652. Again, I don't mind being called because, especially as I said, we are seeking additional hands, and so even just a curiosity, you're very welcome to attend.
Thank you, Bobby.
Our number is 254-297-9190. And usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's somebody available to answer the phone. If not, you can leave a message and somebody will get back to you, usually within a couple hours. And if anybody wants to send a contribution, you can send it to P.O. Box 462, West Texas, 76640.
Okay. No, 76691.
76691. I get them next. Yeah.
We're in West.
Yeah, we're in West. 76691. Yeah. And also our meetings are on the first and third Thursdays at 6:15. And on the first Thursday, we meet at St. Joseph Hall. And on the second Thursday, we meet in the Parish Center.
Okay. So to repeat, Bobby, your cell phone number to reach you if someone wants to ask more information or to inquire about helping St. Vincent de Paul there in Waco. It's 254-723-0652.
Correct.
And then for West, they can contact 254-297-1910.
Nine.
Oh,
Do it again.
two. What?
254-297-9190.
9190.
9190. And that's both our line for assistance or if you're just interested in talking and helping us.
Okay. Well, this has been a good visit with you. We've got a couple of minutes left. Is there Christmas coming up? Y'all do things to help out
Yes.
your
Yes. As
neighbors?
As a matter of fact, we're going to all those that we've helped in the last couple of years. We're going to give each family two $50 gift certificates to the West Food Mart, so they can have a good Christmas dinner. And for the children, we're having gifts made up, individual gifts made up for them.
Awesome. How about Waco?
Well, we help again with Meals on Wheels, and so in that process, we've put together some small, a few items that again they're mostly elderly who we serve, and we also have an Advent project with our CCE program at St. Jerome, in which they contribute. Thank you.
Well, that is good information, and I want to thank each of you, Bobby Jetelina from the Waco St. Vincent de Paul Conference, and then Matt Hykel and Cheryl Hoelscher from the West Conference. Thank y'all for being here today and for sharing what it takes to be a Vincentian and what you do, and thank you for living the gospel and sharing the gospel by y'all's charitable works.
And thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. And we are about to take a break here to go to our second part. So back in the studio is Dennis Maka. Dennis, are you there?
Yeah, Darren, you went about 30 seconds over.
Well, what else is new? All right.